What's the funniest question? What's the funniest question you've ever been asked?
The funniest question I've
Yeah.
ever been asked. I mean, probably that, to be honest. It's such a weird question.
That's a weird question, not a funny
Yeah,
question.
I mean, I have no idea. The funniest question I've ever been asked. Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest. That's quite a weird question.
Yeah, I got one for you before we start.
Go on.
Yeah, would you rather use what's that paper called? Is it sandpaper? Yeah, sandpaper. Would you rather use sandpaper as a toilet paper, or vinegar as your eye drops?
Sandpaper.
Sandpaper. Ooh.
I'll do it with that. My eyes is something different, man.
I don't know about that. But yeah, cool. Anyway, on a serious note, do you want to introduce yourself now? It's a little bit like, bro, are you ready, bro?
I'm here, man. I'm ready, bro.
Cool. Yeah, man. Go for it. Who are you? Like, you don't have to. You know, I always say people don't have to put themselves in the boxes because obviously, regardless of what you say, you're more than that.
Of course.
Anyways, but yeah, who are you? You know, just to create some kind of context, so people that are listening, they might be wondering who's this guy, and you know, why is he saying certain things that he's saying and stuff. So,
yeah, cool. My name's Soloman. I am a boxing coach and mentor, father, and just a happy soul roaming through this world.
Happy soul or happy soul?
Both.
Both. I love it. And you know what? It's like, it's funny that you introduce yourself as a father, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and I wasn't sure how comfortable you were at first, but since you said it now, I'm going to ask you, like, what's kind of like, what would you say has been a change since you become a father? Because I've seen with a lot of people, and it's not just, I think it affects guys and women differently, you know, but I think I've seen a lot of guys where like they completely change when they become a dad. So like, what's been a change for you? Like,
I think over more than anything else is the mental change, you know, the idea that I am so much more responsible in every moment.
yeah,
You know, even me leaving the house now is like a realization that,
wow,
you know, I have to come back to my little one.
yeah,
Whereas before I'm kind of like, I will come back, but now it's I have to come back. You know?
yeah, that's powerful. So it's like, it's almost like he gave you a different awareness of certain things that you do.
A different awareness, but I suppose it's made me more selfless. I think less about myself and my needs, and that's a massive bonus, I think, you know, to just kind of let go of any hang-ups or any things I thought I might have needed, because now it's very much more about what I can provide.
Yeah. Do you think that's an instinct, or do you think that's something you consciously choose to do?
I think it's an instinct, but I still think you have to be conscious of it. You know, I think it's a natural urge or a natural feeling to want to be there for your kids and provide for them. But unfortunately, not everybody does it. So
That's what I was going to say, because I would debate that. I think that's within you. I think that's you as an individual. I feel like you're very responsible and you're very aware of, like, you know, what it's like to be a dad. Where, like, I feel like a lot of other fathers, they're not, I wouldn't say everyone does that. So is it an instinct, or is it something that's within a person? Because that's really interesting.
yeah, I mean, I suppose for me, it's all about the kind of the rules I've set for myself growing up, and now having a child has reinforced, I suppose, everything I did and didn't have.
Yeah.
So now it's my chance to be the man I never saw, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah. It's funny we spoke about that on the last episode with Hebs.
Oh,
Remember Aladdin? It's kind of like the conversation's carrying on, but we're just with a different person, which is quite cool. Anyway, I got a question for you, yeah? So if you learn from our mistakes, yeah. By the way, I got loads of random questions. So
Wouldn't be Leo.
wouldn't be me. So yeah, so if you learn from our mistakes, yeah, why are we so afraid to make mistakes?
Nobody wants to fail. It's not a nice feeling going for something and not hitting the mark, you know, especially if you've put any effort into it. But yeah, I think that's our own hang-ups, you know.
But then isn't the learning like the ultimate reward from making those mistakes?
Massively. But also what you do with that learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would debate that. I would debate that a lot of the time. I feel like people are not necessarily scared of failing. I think people are scared of what people are going to think about them when they fail. So I think it comes down to sort of like a little bit of validation sort of thing.
I mean, validation is massively a part of it. For me personally, I hold the validation as a less of importance. So in that regard, it doesn't cross my mind as the reason why you wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Because I'm not living for other people, you know. So yeah, for me, it's more, for me personally, I would say it's the idea of putting in the effort, putting in not only the mental, but the physical effort, and then it falling apart can be quite devastating for people at times, you know?
Yeah. What do you mean, like, can you give some examples of like the mental effort or physical?
Yeah, I mean, even in regards to like boxing coaching, you know, somebody who has gone through 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years of training to ultimately get in the ring and compete. And I've seen people completely fall apart in the ring, you know, and it's a huge effort. That's not only time consuming, but it's, you know, very mental and physically consuming as well.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle you have to live, and then for it to kind of crumble in a heartbeat I've seen a lot of people fall apart from that. And that's just one idea of putting your heart into something, putting your efforts into something, and then.
But do you think there's something to do with expectation as well? That maybe the expectation was that they are gonna like take the W, and once it doesn't meet the expectation, they just go like, you know what, it's not really for me. Or
it's interesting because expectation is it goes hand in hand, but it's also something a little bit different, because whose expectations are we speaking about?
That's an interesting question.
You know, what my expectations are, and again, maybe me as a fighter, and then expectations as a coach they should align, but they don't necessarily have to align, you know.
But then, can your expectation as a coach, and this goes for everything in general, I'm just using that as an example. Sure. Can someone's expectation make someone, can someone's expectation ruin someone?
Again, I think it depends on the amount, how much that validation means to you, and how much you care about, again, doing stuff for other people. So it can, definitely. If you have put your heart and soul into it and somebody knocks you back or doesn't believe in you, it can, be very devastating. Also, if somebody has the highest expectations and you feel like you can't live up to those, can also be quite devastating as well. But could also push you on, you know. So it's quite an individual thing, I'd say.
So it's almost like it comes back to like, it's what the person makes it.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Do you know what's really interesting? So like, this is, I think, the 17th episode. 17th, right? The 70th, in all the episodes, there's been a lot of, like, one of the highlights I've seen is that there's a lot of conversation around validation. So we don't necessarily speak about validation, but a lot of the stuff that we talk about comes back to validation. Like, what does validation mean to you? That's something I wanted to touch on, because it's really interesting. I'm just like, why is this a repeating pattern, and why does that always come back?
For me, the only validation is personal validation. Again, what other people think and say about me is of no concern to me. How I think and feel about myself is of utmost concern to me. You know? So very much how you treat yourself, you know, is also a reflection of how you may treat others. So for me, the validation has got to start internal. It has to start internal, and
that's powerful.
I'm not seeking validation.
There is something I wanted to ask. I had this like kind of epiphany kind of thing based on validation, and that was around hard work. So my kind of thing is, hard work does not entitle you validation. An example could be, let's say for me, for example, if I make a video that I've been working on for like a year, or not a year, sorry, like a month or something. I've been working, trying to make it the best as possible, and I release it. I'm not entitled to good feedback. I'm not entitled to people saying, "Oh, that's sick." Like that, just because I worked hard on it doesn't mean I deserve validation. I think good work deserves validation, but no matter how hard you work, because it kind of goes off that thing of I was telling Leo earlier. Hard work does not bring luck; it brings statistical. Hard work doesn't bring luck; it brings statistical. Statistical inevitability. So essentially, the idea is that, because it's based around probability, if you take 100 shots, you will score at least one minimum. Like the person who takes the most amount of shots in a football season tends to score the most amount of goals. So yeah, like I guess my kind of thing is like, no matter how hard I work, I understand that I don't deserve to be told, yeah, that's a bad boy video, or that's a bad boy this or that. It's just I need to produce good shit, and I guess that comes from hard work as well. So Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Because I've got some as well.
Yeah, again, I suppose it goes back to what I was saying before. It's whose validation are you seeking, and for what reason? You know, for me personally, the reason I don't seek validation, I mean, I always seek feedback. Feedback and validation, I think, are two very different things. But if I'm always seeking external validation, if somebody builds me up, I can believe them. If somebody tries to break me down, it can also have the same effect. So for me, it's all about controlling my center and not letting too many external forces.
This is what I'm hearing. Yeah, I've heard something powerful. You're talking about internal validation, and what you said was that sounded more like external validation.
Yeah. But I think external validation is important, though. I think the only reason why there's more than one person on this earth is for us to collaborate and whatnot. Not to say that you should, because me, if you don't talk about me personally, I don't do things for external validation. That I see it as a bonus, but I don't see no value in it. There is value in external, because essentially, if I do something that I think is cool and I show someone and they think it's cool as well, I'm gonna feel good inevitably. I'm gonna feel good about it. Yeah. So I think that kind of helps with like an ego boost or like a motivation, whatnot. But I think if validation wasn't of any value, there would be no point in there being more than one person on this planet.
But you know what? But there is an interesting thing of like internal versus external, and it's not with validation only. Like for instance, training, right? Like I see loads of people who are dependent on PTs or like other people to give them motivation, to motivate them. And there are people, the more rarer kind, there are people who are like, they can do it themselves. They have the internal drive to do it. They don't need another person to do so. Or they kind of develop that ability as well. So I think it's not just with validation. I think it's just with a lot of different things. It's however, like you have an internal, someone's built an internal mechanism to just do something, and someone hasn't, they rely on external things. And relying on external is not always the best thing to do, because you can't always rely on people, right? Like not in a rudest way. Not in a bad way, yeah.
But people have their own things going on, you know.
But in terms of validation as well, there's also something around existence. It's what you're saying as well, right? It's like if I get validation, it kind of confirms that I exist in a funny way.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. But you did say something which stood out to me, which is about ego. And again, my whole idea is about getting rid of your ego, and not feeding into it too much. Because again, if your ego can definitely bring you up, but it can also massively bring you down.
Doesn't that mean, like, because I wouldn't say I want to get rid of it completely. I would say more learn to balance it out. Because I think ego, I think all these bad traits, people, I said of explanation, what's it called? What's this one called again? Explanation marks or whatever. But I say that, yeah. But essentially, all these bad traits, they're not bad. Like selfishness isn't a bad trait, or ego isn't a bad trait. It's just commonly known as a bad trait because it's easy to use in a bad way. I think it's good. As long as these values or these traits are balanced and used correctly, ego can be used correctly, selfishness can be used correctly. All these things can be used properly, but it's just having to like. Again, I would say I'll disagree with you in terms of the whole getting rid of your ego, because I think there's still value in that. And that can one help with self-motivation. Instead of relying on someone else to motivate me, I can use my own ego to motivate myself to do bigger and better. I can use my ego to understand where I sit or where I stand in my career or in my essentially what I'm doing. Like ego, I think ego can be used as long as it's used properly and is balanced out properly. Yeah.
Well, I suppose, how do you balance that? How do you keep your ego in check?
Understanding yourself.
By understanding yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, which I suppose comes back down to your own values, your own personal values, again, which again for me always starts internal. So what do you value? Maybe what do you value in yourself, and what do you value in others? And if an ego is something that you value, for me personally, the more I get rid of my ego, the more open I am to the world in general.
That's powerful.
Because I used to be an egomaniac, as a youngster. I was completely up my own arse, But since taking active steps to kind of lower that mind state, it's just completely opened up my mind and my heart.
And then just gone out the arse.
I was trying to keep it clean here, my boy. But
that's what he said. He was off your arse. No,
I was just super vain and
joking.
just
I'm just having
as a
some
youngster
fun.
and full of myself.
No, I get that. You spoke about values, yeah, and I think And I think that journey in itself is like really interesting because obviously every single person's got different values.
Definitely.
Like if someone, let's say someone's searching for their values, yeah, like what advice would you give them? Someone that's trying to discover like who they are. And
Well, I think your values are based on what's important to you in life, you know. So it's always, again, it's got to be the internal dialogue to work out what's important to you and not what you think is important to other people.
But then you've been on a journey, right? Like you've discovered it, sort of thing.
So, yeah, somewhat.
Yeah.
Somewhat, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. So like if someone was, let's say someone else is on a journey and they're not there yet, they haven't like realized how to do it yet or whatever. Like what would you tell them to do? Like,
so one thing that helped me massively was when I was trying to find these things was very much about what I don't want to be or what I either don't want to be or don't want to do or don't want to, what I don't want was more of the things that steered me towards things that I may want. Because also at the point, maybe I didn't know what I want. I didn't know what my values were, but I definitely knew what I didn't want. Yeah. And I definitely knew the kind of person I didn't want to be and the kind of energy and life I wanted to live. And having my things I want to stay away from naturally started to steer my mind and my subconscious towards things that are more positive or things that are more attractive to me.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. I think because most of the time people are just looking at like what they want to become, what they want to do. No one ever goes like, I don't want to be like this.
No, the fear, like honestly, the fear is a big motivator in that aspect.
Yeah,
of what I don't want to be, where I don't want to be.
Yeah, that's powerful, you know, because like I think there's that saying of like we either do things out of fear or love.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
That is so powerful. Is happiness the most important goal?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it carries you through life, man. You know, your happiness, if you can wake up happy, go to sleep happy, you are 90% of the way there.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's such a fluid thing, happiness, you know? And again, my happiness in this moment is going to change, is going to be different to my happiness in tomorrow or maybe my happiness in a year from now. But again, it's for me personally, happiness is super, super important.
Yeah.
Of the highest value.
Yeah, but Hitler was happy with killing Jews. Is that okay?
That was his happiness.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Well, we don't know if he was happy or not.
We don't know if he was happy, but I mean, if that's what you're saying, that's his own personal happiness.
Yeah, because my thing is more like, again, I think this is a balance thing, man. Like, happiness, cool, I like being happy, but I also enjoy being sad. You feel me? Like, so my thing in life has always been value. Like, Leo helped me understand this a lot early in my life, is that I really love looking for the value in everything I do. So when I feel like shit, I look for the value in that. When I feel amazing, I look for the value in that. When I film a podcast, when I do some work for someone, when I'm in an argument or a disagreement, when I'm having the time of my life, I've looked for the value. And it's a lot easier to look for the value when you're upset than you are when you're happy. Because when you're happy, your image or your vision is clouded by this happiness or this energy. But when I feel bad, it's like I have a lot of conversations with myself and ask myself a lot of questions. When I feel like shit, I'm like, okay, cool, why do I feel like shit? And I go through the steps of fully understanding why I feel this way and then what are the values in it. And I try to do the same thing when I'm happy, but it's a lot harder because I'm so immersed in this emotion that I can't even think about these philosophical questions I ask myself. So like, as much as I agree with like the whole thing of being happy, like waking up happy and going to sleep happy is like 90% of the way there. I don't know. I just like the balance, man. Like I'm on this Thanos thing. I just love the balance. Like everything has to be balanced.
What about inner peace? Can you still be sad and have inner peace at the same time?
I think that's what inner peace means.
Can you be sad in peace?
Yeah, I think that's what inner peace means. Like understanding the value of everything, and then essentially understanding yourself is how I define the phrase inner peace. So.
Yeah, and listen, just because I'm saying happiness is the most important thing does not discount the opposite, which is sadness goes hand in hand with happiness. You don't know what happiness is if you don't know what sadness is, you know? So you're right in saying that they both hold value, and being in those states of mind are good for you either way if you can internalize them and, you know, make sense of it in your own mind. So just because I believe happiness is of utmost importance, does not discount anything else. Because again, without happiness, you don't know without sadness, you don't know what happiness is, you know. So in that regard, I agree with you. But I still would say putting your happiness, for me personally, putting my happiness first is that's
interesting.
super important.
I think for me as well, because I feel like all of these different emotions, right? I experience them all the time on different bases and stuff. But I think for me, what's important is how I experience them. So I can experience and be frustrated about experiencing them, or I can have like inner peace while having them. So I think for me, peace is just so important. You know, like when I'm peaceful, I just feel like I can experience either one of them, and I'll be fine because, you know, they come and go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even me, I've got no problem. Like, I don't want to, like, if I'm not in the best place, if I'm in a bad place, I like to ride it. I'm not a person that tries to like force myself out of the emotions I'm feeling. So if I'm not feeling well, I'm not feeling up for it. I will not stay, but I will go through the process of internalizing and dealing with the feelings that I'm going through without telling myself, oh, you have to be happy, or I have to be happy. It's okay. I'm feeling what I'm feeling, and it is what it is. It's part of my day.
It's acceptance, isn't it? You're just accepting that.
Yeah, definitely. Accepting, yes, but also understanding it's temporary. Just like anything, you know. I might feel sad in this moment, but Leo could make a joke that makes me laugh, and I'm back happy again, you know. Or somebody, you know, so... I
think one of the most powerful stories I ever heard in my life was from a guy called Prince CA.
I know Prince, yeah.
You know, powerful guy, I love that guy. So essentially he told a story about this guy. I don't know if you want me to tell the whole story, but essentially he told a story about this guy who's a student, and he went up to his teacher, and essentially he was complaining about how difficult the assignments were and how he's stressing out and whatnot. And the teacher looked at him and said, it will pass, and that's it. And like a month later, the same student came back to the same teacher and told him how amazing life is right now and how he's understanding everything and everything's making sense to him. And the teacher said the same thing, it will pass. And I guess it's all about that thing of everything will pass. Good, the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world, everything will pass. And it's that understanding of how everything is temporary, but that doesn't mean you should treat it as such in a way. It's like understand that it's temporary, but still gain the value from it and still kind of be in the moment and kind of thing. You know? So like even when I'm at my happiest, like I'm enjoying it, and when I'm at my saddest, I'm like, I know this is gonna pass. It's not permanent, like you said, it's temporary. So yeah, it will pass has been like my main way of life for the past several years, to be fair.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny how like depending on how I feel, like I experience life differently. Yeah. So I always say that thing, like if you know, when I'm good, like everything else is better. You know, when I'm not as good, like everything else is shit. It's just, you know, it depends on, like, that's the way I experience it, you know. Yeah. And you'll experience it differently. Have you got any questions for me?
Yeah. What made you start this podcast?
Oh my God! Listen, don't be listen. This is like the fourth or the fifth question.
I mean, I've never asked a question to you. I haven't had this time to sit down with you. So
am I meant to explain it on here?
I've just asked you the question.
Okay, cool. Say no more. I'll say it.
You can break it down. You don't have to go into it.
No, I'll break it down. I think initially, I'm just thinking, obviously, because some people are going to be watching is going to, this guy's telling the same thing again. But no, so I think initially for me, like I always wanted to create something like a platform that's powerful, where we have powerful conversations and we can create some different types of content all the time, and people can listen to you and take something away from it. But it's all about like other people. Like, you know, you mentioned, like you said, you became more selfless. One thing I've learned about myself is that I've been selfless for a very long time, and I'm actually learning how to become a little bit more selfish. But part of this, like me creating this podcast, is being selfless and just investing time into creating this platform where people can listen to the pod and just like take different things. Like every single conversation is different.
Of course.
Like literally every single conversation is different. And I go back to the same thing of like how powerful conversations are. It's like I was born because my parents had a conversation.
Very true.
At some point. But then it's going to come back to... So I had another question for you, and I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on it. It's coming back to the thing of like, so you can have a conversation, right? But sometimes the conversation can trigger certain things and whatever. But then what's the connection between thinking and action? That's what I want to get to. So for instance, like we can have a conversation about doing something, but then if there's no action, like there won't be a result from it, right? So we can still have a powerful conversation that can make us think about things differently. But then how much power does action hold into creating a change? Sort of thing.
Yeah. I suppose
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I suppose the action is what takes it into the physical world, doesn't it? You know, talking about it leaves it in the air and in the ethos. But as soon as you take action, it kind of cements it into reality almost, you know?
Yeah, because I'm trying to, like, I think today I'm just trying to understand. This is what I was thinking about on the way here. I was thinking about what's the connection between thinking and action, and are they both as important, or is one more important than the other? Should we take more action, or should we? Because some people think more. You know, you met all kinds of people, right? Some people just live in the head.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are just always like taking action. They don't stop to think.
Yeah.
Some people have a balance. So there's all kinds of like different sort of people. But I'm just trying to figure out, is there like a perfect formula where you go like, this is how much someone should be thinking about something. This is how much action someone should be taking.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a hard one, isn't it? I suppose they definitely both have their values in that regard. I mean, you want to think through your processes, but also you don't want to overthink your processes because taking the action can smooth out those ideas or those grey areas that you wasn't sure about in your thinking. So in that regard, the value is in both.
Yeah, the value is in both.
The value is in both.
Yeah, I agree. Because like someone could be thinking about going to the gym like for like an hour, and without going there, it's just
think
like,
about it for 10 years, mate. Sitting on your couch.
No, seriously.
You know?
Some people do think about it 10 years. Yeah. What's the most common, like, I'm gonna use the word flaw. Like, what's the most common flaw that you find in people when it comes to coaching? So when you coach people, I'm guessing like you've discovered like a same pattern within people that you have. Like, what's like the most common things that you discovered?
Do you know what's interesting? Actually, I would actually say it's the want to be better or to better themselves is generally why people, it's self-improvement, isn't it? You know, generally why people come to the gym. It starts with improving you physically, which then opens up the door of with improving you mentally and hopefully spiritually too, you know. So for me, the idea or the need or the thirst to want to improve yourself, the overarching,
I think that's really interesting. Do you think training should be essential for like every single person?
Massively.
Yeah.
I mean, exercise in general is, it should be, I mean, it's so good for
because if you think about it, like we used to be much more physical back in the day. Like,
I mean, we're complete softies as humans now, aren't we?
Obesity rates are going up. Like, don't want to talk about America. That's nuts in itself. Their stats are looking crazy. I don't even know what the stats are exactly, but I checked at one point, I think like a year ago. It was looking crazy, super high. And this country's getting it as well. UK's getting it too.
Yeah. I mean, it's the lifestyle we live, isn't it? You know. I mean, look where we are now. It's,
but then is that the cause of mental health? I think the underlying thing would be mental health, right?
It plays a part. I think it goes hand in hand.
Habits. You know? So it's like habits, mental health.
But also, I mean, you think, is this the way we should be living our lives? You know, in offices, in buildings, in small habitats that we really have no control over, you know. You rent a house or you buy a house that's already been built by somebody else's ideas and thoughts of what a house should look like.
Like we never, like I don't think we were meant to be indoors. Like
no way, man. No way. I mean, of course we are.
We never used to be indoors back in the day. Yeah, that's crazy as well.
Wearing shoes, man.
And even you remember like just going back on the mental health thing. It's like the reason mental health is becoming such a bigger thing is because jobs started becoming more mental than physical.
Yes.
You know, it's just, it's that.
Yeah, and also I suppose the thing that so many people are doing, and again, this is why I massively applaud you for taking these steps and doing this podcast off of your own ideas, because so many people live their life doing what either they think they should be doing or what other people think they should be doing, or just working a job and living somebody else's dream and not living their own. Yeah. And I think that's a massive part that people don't take into account in regards to your mental health. Working a dead-end job for 30 years to retire to do what? It's just like the idea of that idea of life is super depressing to me.
Yeah.
Like super, super depressing. And so much of the population lives in that way, you know, and have lived in that way for so long. It really proves why there's such a weekend culture here. You know, you work, you grind, you put your head down, and in a weekend you get 48 hours, maybe 72 hours to do what you would like to do, and then you just go crazy, you know, booze and all of this mad stuff. But if you did things you want to do on a regular basis, it evens itself out massively. You know?
I think it comes back to purpose, man. I think
massively.
I'm super grateful because I feel like I've discovered my purpose. So I think with a lot of people, like they might be doing certain things and it just doesn't fit the purpose that they might not have discovered yet, but somewhere deep down they know what it is. you know, but they
Well, they know it's not that anyway.
yeah. So when it comes to the weekend, they might be just out there, just kind of like just drinking, whatever. I don't know what they're doing, and just out there doing certain things and whatever, and it's just like they're distracting themselves from the fact that you're gonna go back to do the same thing on Monday.
Not doing what they want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. On Monday they're going back to the same shit, and it's almost like it's a crazy cycle.
Cycle.
Yeah.
Do you think so I've had this conversation with someone before, and I brought up in Bill's video, but I want to bring up here as well. So this person, essentially what she said was she doesn't want to do what she loves or what she enjoys as a career because she thinks it's going to ruin it. Me personally, I think that applies for uni, for example. So I'm anti-uni, so I feel like if you do what you enjoy for uni, then it kind of ruins that passion for you. My example being coaching. I studied coaching in college. By the time I finished my first year, I hated it. And I went back into it after I started kind of working in it and whatnot. But for career, again, me personally, I think I'd rather do my career, my passion for my career. But I can't understand why they think that, or why she thinks that 9 to 5s make sense so that you can do what you want to enjoy. There's no pressure on you to do what you enjoy in your spare time.
I suppose that's one way to look at it. I don't know if I necessarily agree.
I love disagreements. There's a lot of learning in it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, it sounds very much like, again, to just live in those ABCs of life. You know, you work your 9 to 5 to do what you want in your spare time. When why not do what you love in your time? And if you've got spare time and you need to do other things, then you have that time. But
I think the upsetting thing is the fact that we kind of need those kind of people. I don't think this world would work if everyone did if everyone was a freelancer, or if everyone was an entrepreneur. Or I think the world would only work if there were certain people that did 9 to 5s and whatnot.
But why not though? Why can't everyone freelance?
I don't think we're working.
What if you can anything you need? What if you're a freelancer? Yeah. What if let me just put it this way? What if every single human being became a freelancer tomorrow? Yeah, and then everyone specialized in certain things, right? So I can freelance for someone to do certain things because obviously someone might not have the speciality for it. I get paid for it. Then I can hire other freelancers to do other things for me. Like, what's the difference? Like, why can't we do that?
Well, I suppose that's the idea of community, isn't it? You know, it's very much not about a monetary gain. It's about services that we can do for each other. And I think that's what's missing from our part of the world we live in. You know, we don't have that kind of culture of community and what can I do for you rather than what can you pay me for what I can do.
Exactly.
You know? So yeah, we just don't have that culture here, unfortunately.
But the culture we have, so this is like, I'm just getting this now. So actually, someone's had an idea to just take a bunch of freelancers and hire them for a company. And it's, you know what I'm trying to say? Because every single person that works for a company, there's no reason why they can't freelance and do the same thing. You know, consultancy is a big thing. They can go consult on loads of different specialities.
I think we're moving towards a world like that though. Because again, robots are taking over the mindless jobs. So we're kind of going towards a world where there are, because in the 80s or 90s or the 70s, there are a lot less freelancers than there are today. And I think that's because today is a lot easier to be a freelancer, especially with like the social media world. But now, yeah, I just don't think a world with only freelancers would work, man. Like, I think over time, there will be more freelancers and there'll be less mindless jobs, again, because of robots. But the idea of there being being only freelancers in the world, it's just doesn't make sense, man.
Yeah, so for me, I just equate it to kind of, to the animal kingdom. I mean, you've got birds and you've got lions. You know, we're all designed to do different things in this world. You know, we all, however you value those things, we're all designed or wired to live life in different ways. You know,
what mosquitoes are designed to do? Kill people. I'm just sick of mosquitoes. I'm like, what's their purpose? Like, aside from
I know it's crazy. It's weird when you think about things like that, isn't it?
Because other things, I think about other animals and insects and whatever. Like, a lot of them got purpose in it, but mosquitoes, like, what is that? They literally just fly around, suck blood.
I suppose that you can put that down to the sadness in life. You know, it has its value because without that, you're not going to appreciate the bees that are pollinating our flowers and you know germinating the world.
Community is my favorite word now. You know, you taught me that community basically means communicate in unity, and that's become my favorite word.
I mean, yeah, that's a great breakdown. It
makes sense. It just makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does, and it makes complete sense. It's a great breakdown of the word.
No, every time he said, because he said community a couple of times, and every time he said it, I'm like, I love that word now, man. My favorite word.
I like that.
Well, cool. Have you got any other questions apart from when I started the podcast?
Yeah, well, No, not really.
Nah?
No.
Oh, that's all right.
I've just come really very open and just kind
Yeah.
of going with the flow today, my man.
Nah, that's cool. But I just wanted to go back to the, like earlier we were saying that sadness gives meaning to happiness, or like vice versa happiness. You know, if one didn't exist, then other one wouldn't. I had this like really deep thought a little while ago, and I was just thinking actually death gives meaning to life. Like life doesn't exist if death isn't there, right?
Exactly.
Like what's life if
there's
people
no
can't
death,
die?
yeah.
Then there isn't life.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
someone can't live.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that just made me look at things like from a completely different point of view.
Yeah, and I suppose with that idea of you know, there is no life without death. That's we have to. That's always in the back of your mind, no matter what. You know, no matter how happy or sad you might be in the moment. We're here for a finite time, aren't we? You know, so why be sad? Why do things you don't want to do? You know, who knows when the reaper's gonna come knocking, mate? You know,
That's true.
I would much rather say I have done what I've wanted to do. I've enjoyed my time, and I haven't been too hard on myself. I think a lot of people beat themselves up for what they may have done or may not have done in life, you know, and it's very much part of the journey. You know, the good things I've done and the bad things I've done have all culminated to me being the person I am today, you know, so again, it comes back to the word regret as well. That's why I don't like the word regret, because one, you can't change anything, and two, regret is kind of a stagnant state of mind for me. There's no moving forwards from regret.
It's almost like being stuck in something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause you can't go back.
yeah, that's interesting.
What you never do to change that.
Yeah,
And without that experience, you aren't who you are in this moment.
Yeah, so regret is just holding on to something that, like, literally we just can't like do anything about. But then I was saying this in the previous episode as well, like, but then we can learn from that situation, right? Whatever the situation is that we regret, potentially we can learn from it and just do things differently in the future.
There you go.
And I think there's always hope. Like, you know what? I never used to be a fan of the word hope, because I'm like, what are you gonna sit and hope for? Like, but there is this thing of like hope can give, like, kind of like the ability to just be like, you know what? Even though this thing didn't work out, but if I get myself in a similar situation, like, I'm gonna do things differently with the learning I've taken from it.
Yeah, I kind of don't like the word hope either. I would use the word faith.
Faith.
Yeah. Just having faith that things, and again, faith can be quite a wide-reaching word.
Yeah. And the word belief is like similar as well.
I would use believe in faith rather than hope. Hope seems a bit too in the air.
Because I think some people just sit and hope on a couch.
Yeah, and
that they're gonna get abs. just sit and hope.
Just sit and hope. Yeah, but faith. For me, faith but I suppose again, where does that come from? You know, because you can have these ideas and these feelings without knowing the root of that emotion. Like, I've always, no matter where my life has been or wherever I've been in my life, I've always kind of had the faith that I will find my way, or the belief that I find my way. But I've never had the hope that I'd find my way.
Yeah. Do you think that's connected? That goes back to what we spoke about earlier, like values and just like having the purpose and it's kind of like.
I mean, yeah, retrospectively, but I think from a very young age, I felt that without even knowing what values were. You know, I kind of always had that feeling without.
But where do you get it from? Because
that's
no
my
one
point.
has it. Yeah.
That's my point. You know, where does that feeling of knowing or of faith, where does it come from? You know.
Yeah. So there's this one bit I want to touch on, because we're gonna start wrapping up soon and stuff.
After you're done, I want to say one more thing as well. I don't give your opinion on something, but
okay,
I'll
cool.
let you go first.
So just going back to parents, just like a quick story as well. So like I was at one point I was on McDonald's. Yeah, this was like maybe 3 months ago, and I was in the car.
At McDonald's.
I was getting a Happy Meal.
Yeah. You're happy, yeah?
No, I was with a friend of mine. I was getting McDonald's. I don't really go to McDonald's like that, just once in a while. And anyway, like, we just saw like a kid, jump out of the car, one of the cars, and he went to throw rubbish away. But the kid was like maybe like 10 years old, like 11 or something. But he was chubby as hell. And I was thinking, it came back to the parenting thing. And I was thinking, like, this is what his parents are teaching him from young. And then it's going to become, so just going back to the parenting thing, as a parent, yeah, what kind of like values do you want to instill within your son from early? And I guess this is something that can go out on a podcast, and then, you know, if anyone else is becoming a parent, so, you know, whatever, they can take something from that and be like, you know what, actually that's powerful, and that's something I like to do with my kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because my son's only a year and a half, but in this year and a half, I suppose what I've wanted to implement more than the things I've wanted to implement is one, a sense of self-confidence and self-reliance within himself, which is hard for
No, but of course. So I'm just saying, in, like, as in the future, not necessarily now. Obviously, that's going to be hard to do now, but just, you know, just in the future in general. What do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So for him to be self-reliant and know that he can do for himself is, I think, is one of the most important things. He's not a victim in this world. You know, he's only a victim to his own bad decisions. You know,
and that's powerful.
So in that regard, I just empowerment. You know, I want him to grow up and not be afraid to try things. I want him to grow up and know that it's okay to fail. I want him to grow up and know that his family is around him, and he's privilege is another word that I hate using, but that he is growing up, hopefully recognizing that he is in a place of great privilege. You know, just being born in England, he's coming from a place of great privilege. And just to be a good person, man. Whatever he wants to do in this world is his life, you know. Yeah. So I want to just give him the safety net to know that we're here, whatever happens through his life, you know.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't have too many expectations. I don't really have any expectations on his life. That is his life to work out and to live. I'm very much there as a sideline coach. Yeah, when he has a timeout, he'll come and see me. We'll have a talk, and we'll send him back in the field. You know?
Love it. That's nice. Go on.
Yeah, so I guess this is the last thing I want to talk about. Essentially, I want to get your opinion. I've said this before on the pod. I want to get your opinion on it, mainly because you're very insightful. So the line is, hope is the only thing stronger than fear. I can go into it if you want, but essentially, I want to get your opinion on what you think that means to you, essentially.
Well, my interpretation of that, I suppose, again, it comes back to the idea of there only being two true emotions in this world, which is love or fear. And it's, I suppose, every decision you make, you could almost break down to the idea of why am I making it? Am I making this decision out of fear? Or am I making this decision out of love? So I would use the word love instead of hope, because, again, it's just my own hang-ups about the word hope. But yeah, having that faith is.
Yeah, because my thing has always been, like, one of my my favorite traits about myself is the fact that I feel like my hope, more time, like 80% of the time, my hope is always stronger than my fear. So whenever I look into a situation, the first thing I think about is what can I gain from it, rather than why am I not going to do this, or why am I going to avoid this kind of thing. And it's like, I actually written a whole piece on this actually. I'm not sure if you want to read it, or whatever. But essentially, that the idea is that if you think about fear, if you think about the negatives or the things that might go wrong before, then you can never do nothing with it. I feel like people think of both all the time. Whenever we do anything, we think about both hope and fear, which is why I say I say my hope is stronger than my fear, rather than I have hope, not fear. Because I always think about the fearful stuff. When I go into something, I'm always going to think about, will I get rejected? Will I hurt myself? Will I this, that? But because my hope is always stronger than my fear, or more time it's stronger than my fear, I always think about the benefits from it, and that kind of motivates me to move forward and go on with it. So.
Yeah, I think ultimately, man, if that's what works for you, because again, some people are motivated by fear, and some people are of the other side. I personally agree with you to having that idea of the benefits and how this is going to help you. For me, I am of that same idea, but also, that a little dose of healthy fear doesn't, can take
like one of the, I think someone said, the worst thing I could wish upon my enemy is that they don't have nerves. Because if you don't have nerves, you will never know any infections or any injuries you have, and then essentially you'll die without even knowing it's happening. So that fear is like, wishing someone not to have any fear is like a very bad thing to wish on them, because then if you not have fear, you start jumping off cliffs and
So fear keeps us alive, man.
you feel me? It keeps us balanced again. It keeps us balanced.
Yeah, it does.
Being overconfident is not always a great thing.
No, yeah, fear. Yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps us alive. It's the reason why you look both ways when you cross the road.
Yeah, it makes people evaluate shit
Yeah.
a bit more.
So fear's important. I think it is important.
Yeah, 100%.
Live with hope. Or
100%.
Yeah,
Live with love.
Live with love and hope, but have that fear on the side just there, just in case, just to keep everything in check, kind of thing. Yeah.
So, yeah, we're getting to an end now. So usually in this part we just do two things. One is like if there's anything you want to promote. So obviously I know you PT, so if that's something you'd wanna.
Nah, I'm not here for self-promotion.
No, bro, why not?
That's all right.
Okay,
That's
cool.
not me.
Alright, can I still add your Instagram, like PT Instagram on?
Yeah,
if anyone wanted like one of the best coaches to PT them, then yeah, is that cool? Yeah. And the final question. So, if you had a chance to change the world, and you had 7.8 billion people listening to you say something, what would you tell them?
I'm gonna sound like a cliche here, but do unto others as you've had them do unto you would be my one rule for the world, man. If you want, treat others how you want to be treated. It's a very simple, very easy and effective way to live your life. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
Yeah.
So if I don't mind people robbing from me and stealing from my house, then go ahead and do it. But yeah, for me, that's a philosophy I kind of live and base a lot of my values on and the way I live my life.
It kind of touches on a little bit of like law of attraction and just kind of karma. Karma is a big thing, I guess, with that.
Yeah, I suppose maybe as well it comes from religion as well, you know. But yeah, I mean, for me that would be that would be the easiest and most effective way to.
Yeah, I think that's powerful, and yeah, I'm very grateful for you to come on the show, man.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very happy I came down and see you guys. I mean.
And we're gonna do part 2 in a trio as well.
Yeah,
so that's gonna happen.
Love to. Yeah.
Do you wanna come back with Abdul?
That'll be sick. Man.
Yeah,
that'll be sick. Yeah.
Cool.
Have a little gather.
Alright, we'll do that. Love my bro.
Pleasure.